when I get to the where are you from question, it gets complicated. Well, sometimes I just have no answer for them. Like, I'm from Israel, I'm from Palestine. I don't really know where I'm from.
The experience that we have of identity and belonging derives from my faith, first and foremost, as a Christian who grew up in Galilee, raised with these wonderful virtues and standards and values of loving our neighbors as ourselves. It's a big challenge. It's not an easy life where you are surrounded with so many challenges and there is so much conflicts around you. And you ask yourself, where do I belong in such a world that confronts us with so many difficulties?
This is the area that God has chosen and that Scripture records. The law, the prophets, and the Messiah appearing. And it's because of the ancient ones that Jews, Christians, and Muslims hold this area to be special, to be sacred, to be something that is possessed, held. And this, of course, is why we have conflict, because when something becomes a possession, I want all of it. And if I don't have all of it, it means that I've lost something. The Holy Lands, it's at a crossroads of humanity, of cultures, of continents. It encompasses so many different human identities. There's national identities: Israeli, Palestinian, Jordanian, Syrian, Lebanese. There's religious identities: Jewish, Christian, lots of different denominations of Christianity, Sunni Muslim, in Lebanon, Shia Muslim, and Druze people. There's also different ethnicities, right? We've got Arabs, Jews, Armenians, Ethiopians. This is humanity in its fullest. Incredible. And this is the beauty, and this is the challenge.
I am an Israeli but not Jewish, and I am an Arab but not Muslim, and I am a Palestinian but not a terrorist, as some people would imagine, because we as Christians who live in this part of the world, our tradition of keeping the Christian faith goes back to the day of Pentecost.
I define myself first and foremost as a human being. That's terribly important to me. My humanity transcends any other category or self-description. My next category of self-identification is as a Jew. As a Jew in terms of a child of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, part therefore of the Jewish community, seeing ourselves as an extended family. And that's a very important point in terms of trying to understand Jewish identity.
Growing up, I really had to figure out what my identity was pretty early on. I happened to grow up in northern France. Both my parents were born in Algeria. They're both Jewish. And my dad is also Israeli. I also had the identity of not fitting in France and not entirely fitting in Israel, while having a very Jewish home. I feel that if you're part of a majority, you don't necessarily need to ask yourself who I am or what I am, because it's kind of the normal and everyone is kind of the same around you.
I'm a Palestinian holding an Israeli identity card. Of course, I have no Israeli passport. So as a resident of Jerusalem, you have to stick in the city. The moment you leave Jerusalem for some time, the Israeli law or the Israeli authorities will be able to distract you from your rights as a Jerusalemite. As I'm working in Ramallah now for more than 25 years, it would have been easier for me just to live in Ramallah. But in order to keep my rights and to hold my Jerusalem ID, I have to keep my residence, my main residence in Jerusalem, and this is what I'm doing. I'm doing this with my wife every day for more than 20 years now, going and coming back to Ramallah. It is one of the hardships that every Palestinian have to carry on to continue.
I am an Arab, Muslim, Palestinian citizen of the State of Israel. Seems like a big clash. However, there is coexistence in between these variables.
We do have the components for a salad, but they are not mixed. So you have a whole tomato and you have a whole cucumber and you have, lettuce leaves, but everyone is still intact, and we do not really mix. We exist next to each other.
It's really complicated. There's like many types of Palestinians. I live in Israel, and before the wall, there's two sides, after two sides of the wall. So we don't really get to connect with the other Palestinians in the other side of the wall.
I live in a small village. My village, we don't have Jews in it, Jews. And before 4 years ago, I moved to Haifa city. I met there a lot of people, and that was my first time for having Muslim friends. In my first year, I was really scared of talking on the phone to my father. I told him, I will text you, because I was really scared to talk in Arabic, because there's a lot of soldiers. I know that there's Jewish people that are nice and good, and I wanted to meet them.
I met Palestinians for the very first time when I was 22. When I settled here, I understood and I saw and I felt how binary everything was. You had to choose a side. You were either an Israeli Jew and part of this national narrative that was built for us to feel that we belong, or you were Palestinian and you were part of this narrative that has been erased. And to be honest, I did not feel that I fit anywhere.
We Arab citizens of Israel are in between worlds. We're not the Palestinians living in Palestinian territories, and we're not the Israeli Jews living in the Jewish cities and towns. So we're kind of in between worlds, and we Arab Muslim women are the minority inside the minority. We have so many levels of fight until we reach up to the position and we say, we made it, or we can be free enough to shape our present and future.
It would be incredibly wrong and dangerous in a simplistic way to erase the complexity of our identities. And I felt that this is sadly what's happening here, that in order to feel that we belong, we have to simplify our identities to a maximum, and so erase what makes us us. Because it's not only two sides and one that has to lose for the other to win. It's just a beautiful mosaic of complex identities and stories who belong.
If we were able to learn how to see the attachments of others to Jerusalem as a gift and not as a threat, this would be the source of blessing that will resolve the conflict and bring blessing to humanity. But unfortunately, all of us here suffer from some kind of trauma, both from the past and the present. And unfortunately, we lack the leadership to be able to give a greater vision than simply the pursuit of each community's self-interests.
Definition of a self as a conflict keeps you in a place where you're always angry at someone, and you have to blame someone all the time, and you have to feel the victim of someone. And I definitely decided I am no one's victim. I'm not a victim, not in my community, not in the larger Israeli context. I'm not apologetic of being Muslim. I'm not apologetic of being Arab or being Israeli or being Palestinian.
We would like to live in peace. We would like to have stability in the region. We would like to have an end to the occupation. This will basically bring us closer. I say this brings us closer because there are many other challenges that we have here.
It may seem very difficult, especially for Palestinians, to understand how Israel, whom they perceive as so strong and dominant physically, is so insecure. But that insecurity is really profound, both in terms of a historic identity and the way the Jewish community sees the contemporary reality that they have to contend with. So pushing people to be more open and more engaging and understand the importance of interfaith relation is not a simple task in Israel, but it's a critically important one.
In the words of a medieval Muslim scholar from Andalusia, when he entertained the idea of who is your neighbor, he said 40 doors in each direction. And I love this. He did not say 40 doors of Muslims, it's everybody. That's my neighborhood.
Interfaith relations is not only overcoming negative attitudes of the past, but is also a way of being able to make the world a better place for everyone.
A lot of my friends don't think the same way I do. Some of them thinks that Palestine just don't exist anymore, and some of them just thinks that Jews will never be friends with us, and we never can live in peace together. So I want to change their minds and their opinions, because in my perspectives, we really can, and I hope we will.
When I grew up and looking at my own identity, I realized that my identity is not so much different to many identities around the world, because their identity is formed by their own stories and narratives that shaped who they are. And for me, these stories can be life-giving to me, definitely, but also they can be helpful also for others, to hear the wonderful stories that happen within our lives as children of God, as Christians here in the Holy Land, and as living stones in these wonderful and very unique and special places.